Page 25, second line from the top of the page. Went back to our subject of using certain animals during the festival. אמר רבא בר אבונה אמר רב, הסוחר אמת המים מערב יום טוב, ולמחר השכים ומצא בדגים מותרים. So, a fellow has a irrigation system that passed to his yard. I remember several days ago I was teaching in a college, so the topic was the Mesopotamia. So according to some sources, there are the people, either them or the Akkadians, who invented the irrigation system. Mm-hmm. But anyway, here this speaks about the fellow that he closed a water channel that irrigated from outside, and he did it before the festival, which called mezuman me'erev yom tov. It was ready before the festival. What's the purpose for him not doing that? Doing that, it's because he wants to avoid fish for coming in his property. And the next morning, all of a sudden there are fish there. So how they are there? Mm-hmm. We have the assumption, David will tell you if it's true, we have the assumption that those fish will get there before the festival. So therefore, it's not considering a muktzeh. Why? Because we're thinking that he prepared that, Rashi said, in advance. Now, not everyone goes along with that. The Rema, there are some who say that it's an issue of hunting. Because in a way, you can say indirectly. But the idea, the rabbi said, the Bach and others, they said the fact that he did it in advance and now they cannot run away, it's not tzeidah. Yet, we must say, just as a note, that the Mishnah Berurah in Taf Tzadik Zayin have a discussion how far you can go, how length and how far. So just give you a point, see if you doubt it. He said, רחב ביותר ממזין טפחים, which means should not have the length more than 47 handbreadth, and the other side, the orech לא משנה. So in other words, it's only the width. But the whole idea, some said, like Yam Shel Shlomo, said that it shouldn't be uvdin the whole. In other words, if you need to take the fish, you should not use anything but your hand, for example. So you'll not have anything related to a daily, mundane manners of taking fish, of taking them in a regular way. So now, there are some challenge that. אמר רב חיסדא מדברי רבנו ללמוד, חיה קיננה בשדה אינה צריכה זימון. He said, you know what I'm driving from what my teacher said? Rav was the teacher of חיסדא. He said that if you have an animal that is over there in the field, it's an undomesticated animal that nested in the some place in the field. Take for example a deer living in the field. Mm-hmm. Right? You wake up in the morning in Harness Creek, you see deers around, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's considering makom mishtamer. It's a place that you cannot run away. And the animal, for example, if it's a female, it's have the baby there before the festival. So you don't have an issue of muktzeh, of set aside. You can go ahead and eat it during the festival. Even he not specified in advance that I want to use it. So that's apply also in juxtaposition to fish. That if we put a dam and close the irrigation channel, it's considering prepare in advance. So אמר רב נחמן נפל חברין ברב רבתה. It's some type of using euphemism. He said that our colleague, our friend of Chizda, he said something that many are going to dispute what he said. The issue here is, again, you have the animal was there in advance before festival, Amen. The liver, and then, okay, so Ika de Amr, another option, Amar Rabba Rav Huna midivre Rabbeinu lilmod, we learn from our teacher, Chaya shekinena b'pardes, if you have an undomesticated animal that was in an orchard, and not tzricha zimun, it's considered makom mishtamer, so it's a davar mezuman, it's something that's there. Amar Rav Nachman nafal barav chin berav revata. So again, it's the whole idea how you allow that. So the Gemara said, Hatam lo ka'avid maase, over there in the undomesticated animal that stay in the orchard, a person did not do any act of preparation. So you understand that that's the one that is there. Versus if person physically dammed the irrigation challenge of the water before the festival, so those fish considering muchanim, considering ready, and therefore you cannot compare that to a deer or other animal in the field. Velo ba'aya zimun. Wait a second, what do you tell me? Tell me that the animal that was out there deliver a baby, and the baby animal was there before festival, but the person did not designate it in advance. Ve'atanya, we learn chaya shekinena b'pardes tzricha lezamen, which we learn that undomesticated animal that was nested in an orchard, you have to have a designation in order to use it for food. Vetzipor dror, and the free bird. So we learned yesterday also that that's regular free bird, even in the house. צריך לכשור בכנפיה כדי שלא תתחלף באימה. Because they're running around, those birds, you have to put some tight. You have to tight the legs or something that you designate, clearly. Otherwise, you mix that bird sometimes with its mother because it's small, and people can mix between them, and then it turns to be muktzeh. So what you should do, you should put some sign in her wing or in her leg or something like that, and then you know clearly that it's that bird. וזו עדות שהעידו מפי שמעיה ואבטליון. So during the era of the Second Temple, it was the Sanhedrin, the head of the Sanhedrin was two giant sages, name is Shmaya and Avtalion. They live at the generation, the Gemara in Yoma said that they live in generation before Hillel and Shammai. So it means here to tell us that that's already ruled in the previous generation. So therefore, since we learned that if you have that baby animal, undomesticated animal in the orchard, needs to have some type of zimun, some types of preparation in advance, so tiyuvta, so everything fall apart. And we rejected those who allowed to use a baby of undomesticated animal in the orchard if you did not designate that animal in advance. So we should understand that we are dealing here with different components of halachic discussion. One discussion we have, it's the issue of eating food needed on Yom Tov. Another issue is the hunting on festival. And the current issue is the muktzeh, that the food that was set aside, meaning if it's not set aside in advance, is the issue of using that food. So now we challenge the Beitzah. The Beitzah prohibited an undomesticated animal that was in the field. Umi ba'aya zimun. You tell me that baby animal needs to have a designation. What's the conclusion? Ve'atanya, I can prove to you from different Beitzah why you totally rejected it. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar mudim et Shemai lebeit Hillel. So if you have a dove cove that you prepared for food in advance, על שהזמינם בתוך הקן, ומצאן לפני הקן שאסורים. Do you remember on page 10 we have a discussion over 2 levels of nest, dove nests. You designate one place and all of a sudden you found the doves outside in the board, standing outside in the board. And we have a discussion, maybe those you designated ran away, and what you see outside is a new one, new dove that's standing there at the board of that dove cove. So במה דברים אמורים? ביוני שובח ויוני עלייה וציפורים שקיננו בתפיחין ובבירה. So you have to say that we are speaking here about the dovecote or dove of a loft and bird nesting in pitches or in undomesticated animals that nested, that basically standing there, אבל אווזים ותרנגולים ויוני עדסאות וחנה שקנה פרדס, מותרים. But the others, for example, if you have undomesticated animal that were in an orchard, so you allow, you don't need to have a designation in advance. מותרים ואין צריכים זימון, because it's considering מוכן לאכילה, it's prepared for food. וציפור דרור, however, when you speak about a free bird, צריכה לקשר בכנפיה. As we said, you need to put some designation on that free bird. Why? כדי שלא תתחלף באימה. והמקושרים והמנוענעים. So we explain, according to Beitzah, if you remember, that you need to shake it. In other words, you need to either put a sign on the animal that this is the one, the bird that you designated, or you need to take the bird and shake it. That's the Beitzah point. So you recognize them. So he said, if it's those animals, בבורות ובבתים ובשיחים ומערות מותרים, which means he set it up before, in advance. ובאילנות אסורים. But if it's on the bird staying on the different branches in the tree, so that's rabbinic prohibition. Shema ya'aleh v'yitlosh. Person go there on a tree, and meanwhile he cut off some of the branches, and then he's in violation of labor during the festival. Now the Gemara said total a new din. והמקושרים המנוענעים בכל מקום אסורים משום גזל. Now we talk about the issue of taking property that not belongs to you. So you see those birds, all of a sudden you see a bird that have a sign on the wings, on the legs. So you have to have the assumption that someone else did it in advance and it's not belongs to you. If you take it, you're basically a thief. You're taking something that belongs to someone else. So according to Shita Mekubetzet, etc., follow Rashi. Rashi said that if it's hefker, if it's ownerless, so behagbaha, by lifting it, you already own it. But Shita Mekubetzet said, you know what happened? He was standing there and he saw another fellow that's shaking those birds, so therefore it belongs to the other fellow. Mm-hmm. Not in the case that he just saw the bird and it's a sign that someone else did it. But in any case, here it's a new idea that applies to Hilchot Kinyanim. We're not Hilchot Kinyanim yet, but the whole idea that it's not, you cannot use it. Now, what you see here from this Braita, that if you have undomesticated animals that's staying in the orchard, you can take it during the festival even without preparation, and that contradicted what we said earlier. You have to differentiate between that bird and the mother. So that's, we talk about regular one that is in the field that cannot run away, but large one that can very quickly run away, then you need to designate in advance. Or so then the Gemara said, "Ima bezimun sagela." You tell me that the mother, it's enough that he designated. Tzidam me'alyuta baya. Guess what? It's a big animal, can run away easily. You have to say that it's her, not a mother, and the way that you solve this contradiction, you have to differentiate between that orchard that it's close to the city and one not. So if it's not close to the city, then the baby animal, it's not muktzeh, it's not set aside. And Tosfot here elaborates, and he said, you have to say that this is Amoraic point of view, and therefore it's contradicted from this Braita, and then the view rejected, even if it speaks about orchard that it's not close to a city. Now, since the previous Mishnayot dealt with the Ilchot Seidah, with the law of hunting, now we go the next step. As you know, how you get the food as animal. First, you need to hunt, then you need to slaughter, and then you have to do the final preparation in order to put it on the table. So we explained several times that do that during the festival. If you need it as a food, it's permissible. Now, here we're dealing with a rare situation that the person wants to slaughter the animal because he's afraid that out of that he lose the value. Why? Bema mesukenet. If you have an animal that it's very ill, which means that it's you know that you are the owner and you know that animal is going to die soon, and he figured out if it's a dead, it's careless animal, so it's prohibited to eat, right? So therefore he wants to eat it. So now you have to remember that this fellow, he already finished his meal. So it's not a question that he's so super hungry that he needs to have a food and we allow him to slaughter that in order to eat it. So, so the question is, he in a way a little bit tricked the system. So what do you want to do? He wants to eat it before it turned to be a careless animal. But he already not hungry anymore because he ate. So the Mishnah said, Lo yishchot, he shouldn't slaughter it during the festival, אלא כן יש שהות ביום לאכול מן הכזית צלי. You have to have a short period of time, at least, that he can eat before the animal passed an olive bark of a roasted animal, which means there is a point we mentioned several times, that maybe all of a sudden you have a guest. So again, the way that we explain it, that's based on Eglei Tal, Mlechet Tochen, chapter 30. It says that a person have an animal and he figure out, maybe your guests walk in my house and I need food. So even he already ate the meal and even already he knew that animal soon is going to die. Guess what he's doing now? He's slaughtering it, even it's in a festival, because there is still a live animal, and maybe all of a sudden I have a guest and I need to feed them. Right? So the Mishnah said that it's okay. רבי עקיבא אומר, אפילו כזית חי מבית טביחתה. He said, he even go to the more extreme view. He says, even you have a time frame of eating an olive bark of meat from the place that you slaughter. The place to slaughter, it's basically by Jewish law, we try to do it as painless as we can. So the way that they're slaughtering it, excuse me, those who love animal like myself, it's they use the neck. So even the period of time, it's so short. It's such a short period of time. It's permissible according to Rabbi Akiva. So that, by the way, Rabbi Akiva disputed the rabbis because he speaks about a raw meat. We speak about kedarka, the sages speak about regular manners of eating meat. Anyway, shchata basadeh, if one slaughtered the animal on a festival outside the field, lo yeviena, he should not bring the animal bemot uvemota. He should not bring it on a pole, which means that there are two people who carry it. In those days they used to do it in a pole, because it's basically promulgated and it's denigrating the level of sacredness of a festival. אבל מביא בידו איברים איברים, but he can go and bring the animal limb by limb. אומר רבן ברבא, הפשט וניתוח בעולה. As you know, one of the offering is a burn offering. So when it's come to burn offering, that we need part of the biblical commandment is to remove the limb and cut it to pieces, and והוא הדין לקצבים, and the same apply to butchers. So they need to do it the same way as you do it for the altar. מכאן לימדה תורה דרך ארץ. From here the Torah teaches proper manners. שלא יאכל אדם בשר קודם הפשרת וניתוח. That the person should not eat the animal before flaying and cutting the animal into pieces. It's like proper manners. Maika Mashmalan, what exactly he wants to teach us? To teach us just manner, or to teach us the total prohibition? We cannot eat the animal that way. So in other words, a regular animal, it's in the status of being permitted until, in other words, you cannot use it until you know how it was slaughtered. In other words, in those days it wasn't a mashgichim and a kashrut supervision, etc. As long as you don't know how the process took place, is a problem. Nishchata, if you know that it was made properly, בחזקת היתר עומדת, עד שירדה לך ממני טרפה. So you know that animal, it's okay as long as you don't know how it becomes treifa. So you remember we study, if you are in the street, that most of the butchers are kosher observant, so you find a piece of meat, you know that it most probably belonged to those who did it properly. So in that manners is, as long as, if you know that the first part of the process was correct, next one you assume that it's okay as well. ועננתן מתניתן כרבונה, נתנן רבי עקיבא אומר, אפילו כזית חית מבית ויחתה. He said even the size of the olive bark from the place of a slaughter, מיילה מבית ויחתה ממש. You have to say that that's applied to a place that the animal is slaughtered, for which it follows that one needs to remove the hide or examine the animal. So he said, לא, ממקום שטובחת אכילתה. You have to say, so that's from the where the animal slaughter its food, which means from its intestine, where digestion take place. So Khatam Sofer explained why you use this term of ingestion and not the other part of the body. He said that that's the centerpiece when it's come to kosher slaughter animal. והתנא רבי חייא, מקום טביחתה ממש. רבי חייא said that there has to be at the exact place that it was slaughtered. אלא רבי בר חמא teach us a important prohibition. That what? 25. The אורח ארעה כמשמלן. He teaches the proper manner. You not go impetuously, quickly, and eat from that animal before you take off the hides and all those pieces, and because it's the proper manner, that the person should not look like a super hungry and eating not properly, nothing to do with treifa. That's Rashi's view. Tosfot have a little different view. If it turned to be treifa after he ate Tosfot said, it's considering shogeg and unintentional, and not someone who did it as a honest, because he shouldn't do it so fast. Kiletanya, לא יאכל אדם שום בצל מראשו אלא מעליו. It's again proper manner. One should not eat a garlic or onions from the side of its head, which means its roots, but rather the side of its leaves. ואם אכל הרי זה גאוותן, but if he eats it, he gives the appearance that he is glutton. כיוצא בו לא ישתה אדם כוסו בבת אחת. A person should not drink his cup of wine all at once. ואם שתה הרי נראה גרגרן. It looks like a greedy drinker. תנו רבנן, teach us manners, said השותה כוסו בבת אחת הרי זה גרגרן. If some drink his cup on one time, it look like a greedy drinker. שניים דרך ארץ. If it is 2 swallows, it's a proper. שלושה, if it's 3 swallows, so מגסי הרוח. He is like a little haunty spirit. A very fastidious fellow. ואמר רבי ארמיה ברבא, חצובה מקטה רגלהון דרשיעה. He said the sea squirrel, a plant from the lily family, which root project deep to the ground, so it's cut the leg of the wicked, because those days they used to plant it at the borderline between properties. So since it go deep in the ground but is not scattered to a different location, and he says that those wicked people that changing the borders, they go at night and move the borders to a different location, so they said they're going to be punished at the end, later, so like afterlife, they get punishment for those who did it. The same applies, נטיעה מקטה רגלהון דקצבי ודבעלי נידות. He says that the same applies to people who take orla, which means they have a plant, a young tree, before the past of the 3 years. So the same way, it's those butchers that very quickly eat from the animal before taking off the hide, etc. And maybe the animal is treifa. The same applies to those who have relation with women that in the menstruation period that did not restrain their temptation and not wait until they go to the mikveh and they are available. So therefore, those people who have no patience, they're going to be punished because they didn't wait for the permissible time. The same manner, to Musa mekatag leon desanaon shel Israel. The same way, we said that the lupine is an extremely bitter legume that is edible only after an extensive process, will cut off the feet of the enemies of the Jewish people, which means this is the euphemism, manners is the opposite way, which means that those who worship idols and impose upon Hashem to bring upon them several bad things and did not change the way. שנאמר, the text said in the book of Judges chapter 10, ויוסיפו בני ישראל לעשות הרע בעיני השם ועבדו את הבעלים ואת השטרות ואת אלוקי ארם ואת אלוהי צידון ואת אלוהי מואב ואת אלוהי בני עמון ואת אלוהי פלישתים. So they show that people even they have the whole capability to overcome the temptation, they still worship those different idols at that time. It's called Baal, the false god of Aramean and others, Moab, Ammon, Philistines, which means that unfortunately the children of Israel worship 7 different idols that mentioned in that chapter 10, book of Judges, and makes Hashem angry, and they brought upon themselves terrible things, and they are in that simile, in that euphemism manners, they compare it to that lupine that he caused his owner to cook it 7 times. So at the end of the pasuk, they said that that they forsake God and not worshiping. So ממש לומר ועזבו את השם, איני יודע שלא עבדו. Isn't that obvious when you say that they forsake Hashem, that they not worship God? ומה תמוד לומר ולא עבדו? It looks like superfluous. So רבי אלעזר רספן, אמר רבי אלעזר, אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, אפילו כתורמוס הזה, ששולקים אותו 7 פעמים, he said, even it's like this lupine, which because it's inedible as it is, must be cooked in water 7 times in order to temper its bitter taste, and is eventually made so sweet that the persons eat it, ואוכלים אותו לקנוח הסעודה, לא עשרוני בניי. It's כביכול, Hashem complain about children of Israel that worship idol and makes him angry 7 times, the same in comparison to that lupine. And that explanation is basically Maramshi from Rashi. Even they punish 7 times, it's still stubborn and not make the teshuvah. Next, Tana Mishmei de Rabbi Meir, מפני מה ניתנה תורה לישראל, מפני שהם עזים. The Torah was given to children of Israel because they are azim, impudent, which means that the Torah will take away their desire, or the other Ramban said that they can overcome, they have the trait, mental capability to overcome temptation. But that's basically contradicted to what we said in Yevamot 49, that the children of Israel are basically bashful. And the Maharal explained it. Anyway, in Netivot Olam. Tana Dever Rabbi Ishmael. The Torah said in the book of Devarim, chapter 33, Mimino esh dat lamo. From his right hand went a fiery law. אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, רואים הללו שתינתן להם אש דת. So it means, Maharsha said that they deserve to have this Torah. That's one of the analogy, one of the way that we describe the Torah. It's a fire, because that's basically remove their trait. The trait means that they, again, according to that view, is to overcome temptation. That, it's like the minhag, the custom. So in other words, if they don't have the Torah, not any other nation can stand before them. There are 3 impudent ones. 1, Yisrael ba'umot, the Jewish people among the nations. Kelev b'chayot, a dog among the animals. Tarnegol ba'ofot, and the rooster among birds. V'yesh omrim, and there are those who said, Af ez b'memadaka, goat among small cattle. V'yesh omrim atzlaf ba'ilanot, said even the capper bush among trees. So again, they show that there are more. Rashi said he doesn't know what exactly the issue with that capper bush. Tosfot said that because those it's part, the layer of those capper bush. That's Tosfot. Shchata b'sadeh. So if one slaughter an animal on a festival in the field, so they said, Lo yevi'ena b'mot, he not bring it to the house on a pole. Why? Because it's uvdin dechol. It looks like a regular day's activity. Tanu Rabbanan. The rabbis teach us, En hasuma yotze b'maklo. So Tzlach explains, based on this Rashi, that you talk about a blind person that can walk without a walker. So he using a walker just for convenience reason. But for sure, most of the rabbis said, Rosh, Roshba, Meiri, said if a person can walk without a walker, then cannot walk without the walker, then you're allowed to use it. It's part of, in a sense, of yourself. You have to have it the same as you need a shirt, right? You need a walker. So again, here we talk about someone who appear denigrating the sanctity of the festival by using the walker. So he said, a blind person should not do that. The same, lo haro'eh betar milo. The same applies to a shepherd that should not walk with his stature. And he said, En yotzim bekiseh, echad ha'ish ve'echad ha'isha. So again, that was the manner in those days, that one may not go out on a chair drawn on poles by other people. So that's usually elderly people. Makes no difference if it's a man or woman. So why? Because it's considered a daily mundane activities, and it shows some way of disrespect for the festival. So the Gemarrah said, Eini, is that true? Ve'ashalach Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi, zaken echaya b'shnunatenu. We have an elderly person in our neighborhood. V'aya yotze big bag lodki shelo. But they saw that he has a special chair that he used to go. ובאו ושאלו את רבי יהושע בן לוי, they come and ask the rabbi if it's okay. ואמר, אם רבים צריכים לו, מותר. If many people needs him, because he used to go to Beit HaMidrash and teach, so they allowed to do it. That's what Rashi said. וסמכו רבותינו על דברי אחי שקיה דאמר, we depend upon a fellow named אחי שקיה that said, אנא אפיקטי, I took לרב הונא מהיני, his name of a place. So he took him with the special chair, לשילei, another location, ומשילה להיני, from that's a location close to each other, so it's not the issue of going out of their domain. ואמר רב נחמן בר יצחק, אנא אפיקטי למר שמואל משם שלטו לו ומתו לה שמשה. I also took this elderly person, I carried him from shady area to sunny area, shady area. So it means that's disputed what we said earlier, that the person should not take those elderly people with their special chair. Remember, those days was different. So the Gemarrah said, Hatam ki de'amar ta'ama. Im rabim hayu rabim tzrichim lo mutar. So again, it's all depend if everyone needs that person. If many people need him, then it's permitted. One, for example, he's teaching Torah, and everyone needs to hear his drasha. So that's allowed. Amar le Rav Nachman lechama bar Ada, shliach Tzion, because he gets used to come to Babylon from Yerushalayim. So they call him shliach Tzion, the emissary of Zion. Ki salak le'atam, when you went there to Eretz Israel, akif vezil asulma detzor. Go and circle around the mountain and go to the path of the ladder of the city of Tzor. Vezil legabech, and you should go and visit the Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi that lived there. Ube'aminei, ask him the following question: Kiseh ma'atun bei? Do you allow to carry person with the chair on a festival or not? Ad azal le'atam, until you reach that time to go before this rabbi. Nach nafshei the Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi. So the Rabbi Yaakov bar Idi passed away. Kisalik. So I explained based on my book Biurei Klomar Berashi al Hashas. Rashi said to us, Kisalik imata le'eretz Yisrael lachar she'avar et Tzor. So here Rashi have the issue of what we said earlier several times. What does that mean, Kisalik? Does that mean when he went to Eretz Yisrael, or because he's called Shliach Tzion, the emissary of Tzion, so when he came to Yerushalayim, and that's basically contradicted to what we said. So based on the page 38, that means two different things. Here it means what he intend to go there, and the second one, it means that it's the time that you went there. But anyway, they said when he went to Eretz Yisrael, when he passed that line, borderline of Tzor, Ashkeche Rabbi Zreika, he found another sage, name is Rabbi Zreika. Amar le, Kiseh ma'atun bey. What is your view in regards to using a chair? Amar le, Hache amar Rabbi Ami. Ubilvad shelo yechatef. He said, as long as he's not carried on his shoulder. Amar Rav Yosef bered Rava ba'alunkei. He said, it means on poles. So that's a special chair that you carry. So in those days, when they need to go a long distance, they used to have the shoulder one another. They carry in both shoulders, and that's the way they carry it in a long distance. And in a way, you're denigrating, you show disrespect to a festival if you do that. So the Gemara said, Eini, is that true that you cannot do that? והרב נחמן שר ליאלתא למי pag-aaral. Rav Nachman allows his wife, his name is Yalta, to go buy this alunke, but to go the chair blown on poles on a festival, carries on the shoulder. Said Shane Yalta devita, because this is different. His wife has a fear that she was afraid that she will fall, so they have to carry her on their shoulder. In other words, she was a disabled case in a sense, that she carries a great fears, and that's the reason why they carry. So the same way, Tosfot explained, the same way as we say that if people need a speaker to give a drasha, so you're allowed to go ahead and carry him with that special chair. This lady that had those issues, the same manner, you're allowed to carry her in that way, like the wife of Rav Nachman. So the Gemara now brought another similar case. Amemar umarzutra mechatfei lehu b'shabata derigla. So here's the two rabbis that use to people to carry them on their shoulder on the Shabbat of the festival, which means from the Beit HaMidrash until their places. So either it was the Shabbat of the festival or the Shabbat of preparation of festival, and for sure the Beit Yosef said you have to say that they carry them within the private domain. That if it's applied to Shabbat, you cannot carry in a public domain. But anyway, they did it mishum bi'atuta, because they're afraid that if they carry them, they carry the chair in their hand, they have the fear of falling. ואמר לה משום דוחקה דציבורה. So because there are so many people, so they need to carry it. I, by the way, saw it once. Listen to this. There is one of the Hasidic sect that's called Gur. It's a very large Hasidic sect. They have many, many thousands of students. You hear me, Natan? So it turns that one of my brother-in-law is a Rosh Yeshiva there, in the Hasidic sect of Gur. So he went to, I think it was the Brit of his son, if I'm not mistaken. It's a former Gemarrah Rebbe, the Rebbe of that Hasidic sect. And there are many, many, many Hasidim there. They have basically many thousands of Hasidim. But in that event, or at least, you have a couple of hundred people standing there. So I remember at that time, my father, God bless him, but he wasn't strong. So the Hasidim just lift him up and carrying them by hands, one to another, one to another, one to another, the top of the heads, in like a matter of second, from one entrance of the sanctuary next to the Rebbe in like a matter of seconds. They're schlepping around from one hand to another at the top of their hands. In other words, you have a place packed of people, and he walked in, and the Rebbe came in, and he wanted my father to be next to him when, I think it was when he did Sunday Kaut. Yes, now I recall. It was the former Rebbe, was name is Pnei Menachem, Pinchas Menachem Alter, and it was the Brit, I think it was my nephew, if I'm not mistaken, and my father just had a stroke, and the Rebbe wanted, if I'm not mistaken, that's what happened, and the Rebbe waited for him to be next to him because he's the grandfather of the baby born, and it was, who knows, maybe 1,000 people, and when my father walked in the building, the Beit HaMidrash, they just Hasidim lifting up and transferring from one person to another, boom, 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 boom. In a second, boom, he was next to the Rebbe. I never forget that. They can do that, only can do that. Anyway, I can tell you a lot of stories about them. Let's go to practical halachot. Shulchan Aruch Or HaChaim 497. Hasocher Ramat HaMayim. If one dam a water channel on the eve of a festival so that water could neither enter nor leave it, he may remove fish found in it on a festival. These apply only to a narrow water channel where the fish cannot evade capture, but one may not remove fish from a vessel wider than 600. That's the Magen Avraham. The Shulchan Aruch Harav, he started the Pri Chadash that said that there are many who are stringent in all cases not to cut fish in a normal weekday manner, although some, you see the Eliyahu Rabbah and the Taz that more lenient. It is proper to be stringent lechatchila. Again, that's the Mishnah Berurah. Yonei shovach ve'aliyah. Doves of the dovecote or dove of a loft, and bird nesting in pitchers may not be trapped, nor is designation effective for them. That's basically follow Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Shulchan Aruch Shel Mishpat in chapter 260 speaks about Chashash Gzeila. If those whose wings were tied and those were shaken. If one finds birds with the wings tied, hopping behind a fence or along a path, he may not touch them, as perhaps they were put there by the owners. If he does take them, the Rambam said, he need not to announce that he found them unless the manner in which they are tied can serve as an identifiable sign. Now, the Shulchan Aruch in Choshen Mishpat said that if one finds something without a sign in a place that is not protected at all, he may take it for himself. However, if it is even partially protected, and all the more so if it was well protected, it is prohibited for him to take it. And if he does so, it must be set aside until, Shiavo Eliyahu, when Elijah arrived, and determine its true honor. So, if a deer or gazelle nests in an orchard and give birth to a fawns, and as they are still young, trapping is not required, one may take them without prior designation. It applies only to an orchard within 70 cubits of a town. However, the mother is prohibited and designation is ineffective, as it require trapping. That basically we follow of Nachman Bar Yitzchak as we discuss. We talk also about Be'ema Mesukenet. That Shulchan Aruch Or HaChaim 498. If one has already eaten his festival meal, but his animal is in danger of dying on a festival, and he wishes to slaughter it to avoid a monetary loss. So he knew that the other choice is the animal to die soon. he may slaughter it only if sufficient time remains in a day for him to eat a roasted olive bark from the animal. Now the Ramah said that this amount of time need not include the time required to remove the hide and examine it. But the Mishnah Berurah brought other sources that said that he must also have time to remove its hide and examine it, while yet others are lenient only in the case of kid, goats or foals, where defects that render the animal treifah are rare. The Yirushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, said that when slaughtering this animal, one may take its hide only if he leaves it attached to a limb, and he takes the hide with the limb. The Ramah said that one may not remove its hide at all unless it was slaughtered for the sake of the festival. Again, tzorech ochel nefesh. The Mishnah Berurah said one need not be stringent if he removes the hide in a exceedingly unusual manner. So b'shinui. Shchata basadeh, if one slaughtered an animal in a field, even a healthy one, that was slaughtered because it was actually needed for the festival, the Taz said, he may not bring it to his house on poles on a weekday manner, rather he must bring it by hand, limb by limb. So that's basically, if it's a hurry, it's allowed. We talk about chezkat, isu veheter, that Shulchan Aruch Yoreh De'ah 25. While alive, an animal has a presumptive status of being prohibited, and it retained that status of prohibition even after it has been slaughtered, until it becomes known that he has slaughtered properly. Once the animal is known to have slaughtered properly, it has that status of being permitted until it becomes known that it is for some reason prohibited. We talk about manners. So this is basically Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 170. One should not drink one's entire cup all at once, so as not appear to be a greedy drinker. The Magen Avraham said he can avoid this by leaving a small amount in a cup. 2 swallow is the proper conduct, while 3 reflect haughtiness. However, there are no rigid measures in this regard, as it depends on the size of the cup, the particular person involved, and the type of drink. So that's basically the comment of the Ramah. Hasuma yotze b'maklo. You see, today we have many halachot, Baruch Hashem, which is beautiful. So just the last 2 halachot. The blind person may not go out with his cane. So that's Shulchan Aruch Harav Balatanya. He said that a blind person, and likewise an elderly person, may not go out with his cane on a festival into a public domain or in a Carmelite, which is the intermediate domain, unless he cannot walk without it. That's Aruch HaShulchan and Mishnah Berurah. And also Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 522. Similarly, shepherd may not go out with his statue. Now, the same Shulchan Aruch said that one may not go out on a festival on a chair drawn on poles by other people. Again, as we said, in those circumstances. However, it is permitted if you needed by the public, like we said, we say the Rasha.
ויחם לשולוים מלאכי השולוים מלאכי